Dwayne Landenberger. Summertime.
Do you remember summertime over the years? I do. How did summertime shape your lives? I've lived a nomadic life. It's given me the ability to be flexible and to adapt to changing conditions. By the age of 8, my family had lived in 8 states, or 6 states. I remember 1951, we lived in Perry, Kansas. They had set rainfall records that year that still stand today. I was outside when the Kansas River overtopped its banks, and I got thoroughly soaked. But luckily, it was not swept away. We had to be evacuated by boat. We went to Orleans, Nebraska. My father kept changing his vocation. At that time, he was in construction. We lived in a trailer court. What I remember, it was like a hot box. It was like a streamlined trailer, very small, no air conditioning. We had to rely on fans. One story I remember, my dad was out doing land clearing. They found a tree with honeybees. So they smoked the bees, stole the honey, put a big wash bucket, brought it home to my mother to cook out the honey. Well, there was no vent or no screen on the vent. And the bees came down the vent. I remember my mother carrying out the tub and setting it out in the drive, and the trailer court was very upset with my mother because we had millions of bees for several days. So many, it darkened the sky. And I remember darting in and out to get to the facility, the restroom facility. Well, you know, in 3 or 4 days, they got back all the honey. I remember also we had moved to Benton, Iowa. And I remember there's a street grader going up and down the street. And also we lived in Waterloo. And behind the house was a railroad track. And every night the train would roll through. And the building would shake. And I slept in a Murphy bed. In 1953, we lived in Des Moines, Iowa. It was a 3-story brownstone apartment building. We lived on the 2nd floor. And my sister, I was supposed to watch my sister. And she didn't like being watched. As soon as I would turn away, she was gone. So one day, unbeknownst to me, she went around to all the neighbors. At that time, they delivered milk by a milkman. You'd leave your empties outside and then bring you the... Well, she figured out that if she took the empty bottles and went to the convenience store in the 1st floor of the brownstone, she could get the deposit money. So she collected all these bottles, got deposit money, bought ice cream for all the kids. And my mother was really upset with me. I had no clue. 1954, we moved to Kansas City, Missouri. That's where I grew up. We lived in an area called Wynwood. It's known as Little Italy. It was a rough neighborhood. And I think the crime boss of Kansas City lived in Wynwood. Because nobody, it was like an atmosphere of fear. And I remember the heat, the humidity, and I loved listening to the Kansas City Athletics baseball team during the summertime until they deserted Kansas City and went to Oakland. But then I became a Kansas City Royals fan. Went to school at the University of Missouri, graduated, got a degree in civil engineering. In 1970, worked for the Corps of Engineers. And that summer, I worked at a construction job, Melbourne Dam in Kansas. It was a fun time. I enjoyed my time there. Then in 1976, I went to Colorado State for graduate study. And I enjoyed the Rocky Mountains. I remember going up to Rocky Mountain National Park, driving up to the tundra, loved to hike and outdoor activities. Well, then I transferred with the Corps of Engineers to Savannah, Georgia. And I remember the summertime I went to Cape Hatteras in North Carolina. And I decided, well, I'll go to the beach. And I was riding the waves, and then they would break on me. And I spent too much time at the beach. And that night, I was in New Bern, North Carolina. I woke up in the middle of the night because I had a burn all over my body. I guess it was 3rd degree, possibly. I had blisters on my back. So for 2 days, I avoided the sun. And then one day I said, well, I got to go out to the beach at least one more time. And there was this couple, and they said, well, you really got some sunburn today. It was actually sunburn from 3 days prior. Well, in 1980, I had volunteered to be on a missionary group, and we were in Indonesia. I thought Savannah was bad until I was in Indonesia. It's like 80 miles from the equator. You take a shower, well, so-called shower. What you do is you take a bucket and pour it over yourself. At 8 in the morning, and by 10 o'clock you need another shower. It was that. And then the mosquitoes were terrible. And then in 1982, I was working in Frankfurt, Germany. Summertime was great. I liked to travel. I went to a lot of different countries. I hiked. I did walking. I logged in over 300 miles of walking in Germany and France and the Netherlands. So it was a great time. I see that my time is up. How did your summertime shape your life, fellow Toastmasters?